Good morning, good day. 13th of Elul, Hayom Yom for today. Very short, but deep. We'll see. The Chassid Rav Hendel, he was a Chassid from the earlier days, this Chassid related, that it was known to all Hasidim, that one's first Yechidus was likened to, and here the metaphor of circumcision. The circumcision is the idea of taking away a covering, taking away and revealing something. So the name of the material, the skin that's taken away, is called the orla. So he said that when you go into Yechidus for the first time, one layer of concealment, so to speak, is automatically taken away from you, just from your encounter with the Rebbe. Whatever else, one was immediately rid of that orla of the heart. It's expressed in the writings. It's a metaphor. The circumcision of the heart, the peeling away from the heart of that blocking level that blocks the nefesh elokis from being revealed. And he says this taking away that first level of obstruction was accomplished in the Yechidus with the Rebbe. And we spoke the other day about Yechidus with the Rebbe, with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, particularly today when he's not physically present. And I didn't mention then, but I'll mention now the famous Zohar, which is brought in Tanya, that the Zohar says that a tzaddik, fully righteous person, when he passes away, is more present in this world than he was when he was confined to the body. Because that word confined, when a person is confined to the body circumscribes the soul. Yes, he has influence, but still the soul is encased in the body. When it's not encased, which actually applies to our Yom Yom today, when levels of concealment, which we call in this Yom Yom the orla, the covering the skin, the levels of concealment are taken away, then the soul can radiate much more broadly. And therefore, the Rebbe is, in that sense, more accessible. Yechidus is available just by, and there are a few ways of connecting with the Rebbe. One is with his Torah, another is at the Ohel, and the third way that comes to mind, and there are others, is to do what the Rebbe asked to do. Just like we connect with Hashem by doing what Hashem wants us to do, so we connect with the tzaddik by doing those and following the instructions and the will and the passion that he had, and we engage in those activities. So that's Hayom Yom for today. And we'll continue now with lessons in Tanya. And we are today on page 224. 224, the middle of the page. And Likutei Moharan, let me grab it over here. Likutei Moharan, we are on page Kuf Yud Tes, beginning of a new section, Vehine. And what are we talking about? We're talking about tzedakah. And we're talking about tzedakah in its broad sense of acts of kindness, chesed Hashem, and goodness of Hashem. Goodness and kindness, those two words are related in that they come from the same side in the configuration of Hashem's midos. Hashem's midos are configured like our 10 powers, like our 7 powers, the 7 emotional powers, are configured like his 7 emotional powers. Chesed is the right arm which extends, and chesed is goodness. Rav tuvacho. The pasuk that we're explaining is Rav tuvacho asher sefanta l'reyacha. The pasuk says, "How great is your goodness which you have hidden to those who fear you." And we're explaining these two things, chesed and fear, love and the opposite of love, which is shirking back, which is called yira, shirking back either in fear or in awe, which on the opposite side, love is extending oneself into another domain and to another person. So it says, the pasuk says, great is the goodness which is given to those who fear you. And those are two opposites. Great goodness is chesed, fear is, or awe is gevura. So yesterday, the Alter Rebbe told us that every person's soul is inclined generally one way or the other. These are two root midos. If you look in your mind or can imagine the 10 spheros, when you get to the level of midos, the whole right side of midos devolves from chesed, and the whole left side devolves from gevura. And explained to us that generally people are one way or the other. Now, today he's going to go further and give us another insight into this, which we haven't had yet, in terms of the constitution of every Jew. And this will address what we've been speaking about earlier, which is there are two levels in tzedakah. The level of tzedakah, which is prescribed, al pi Torah. Prescribed is on the side of Gevura. It's this and it's not that. This is the prescription. Like when you have a prescription, you take this and you don't take that. That's Gevura. And then the level of tzedakah, which is called the avoida of tzedakah, when a person comes out of his limits and expands and becomes expansive, which is the midah of chesed. So how do these two things work together? If a person is generally either chesed or, could it possibly be an and rather than an either or? And that's what he explains today. V'hinei kol ish Yisrael, every Jewish person, tzorech lias kolol mebeis b'chinas elo. And he says right away that every Jewish person, yes, has a predominance of one or the other, right side or left side, chesed and its offspring, gevura and its offspring. But in truth, the Jewish soul comes out of a place where all of the midos are inter-included with each other. So therefore, each and every person is in some way includes both the chesed and the gevura. They're mixed together. They're designed to operate together. And there's nothing that doesn't have a place, meaning the midah of gevura can be manifest in one whose predominant behavior is chesed, and vice versa. The midah of chesed can be manifest in the person whose predominant behavior is gevura, because of the fact that every soul is koilel, hiskalos, inter-includes all the midos. So therefore, in there's nothing that doesn't have a place. In other words, it could be that the opposite midah could emerge. In fact, we find kama devorim mekula beis Shammai v'chamuri beis Hillel. We find many times that beis Shammai, two opposing, they're not really opposing, but two expressions of two opposite points of view on halacha, one the view of chesed and one the view of gevura. So we find that many times that beis Shammai, who is predominantly the midah of gevura, will be mekel, will be light. One of the extensive areas where this is true is in areas of matrimonial law, where beis Shammai typically will believe the testimony of the woman, whereas beis Hillel, who is usually lighter, he requires witnesses. And there are many examples in the Shas, in the Talmud of this, where we have Mekule beis Shammai, where beis Shammai, who's normally severe, is light, Bechamuri beis Hillel, and where beis Hillel, who's normally light, goes machmir to the other side. This is an example of the manifestation of an opposite midah, which is there. Where did it come from? Because it's included in the soul of every person, has the opposites inter-included with each other. The Lamdeinu, to teach us, she'af beis Shammai, that even beis Shammai, she'shoresh nishmosam mebechinas smoil ha'elyon, whose source of his neshama is from the higher levels of the left side, and therefore generally he would paskin shilas on the side of Isser, the side of he's strict. He's looking for the way to make sure that you don't overstep some isur. So that's his vantage point. Ubeis Hillel, generally, as he said earlier, souls in general come predominantly from one or the other. And Beis Hillel, who comes from the midah of the supernal midah of kindness, he's the one who usually looks to find people meritorious and doesn't look to the other side. And he is lahakel, to be light, to be forgiven, lahater, and to permit. Isuri Beis Shammai, he will permit those things with Beis Shammai which would find Isur, or forbidden. He's the one who would permit things which other poskim would not permit. The idea of permitting something is very interesting. It's actually brought in the first part of Tanya, that the potter, when a person is potter, the idea of heter, the word means it means to be, it's okay, you have permission, but it's rooted in the word which that root word is to untie, to let loose. And therefore, the expression he has here on the page, when you paskin something laheter, you let it loose for what? La'alis lamaila, that the energy can now go up above. It's freed. Yisura means tied down. Matir means to untie. And so now it's untied and able to rise up. And even though this is the predominant behavior and position of Beis Hillel in halacha, nevertheless, in many cases, Beis Shammai goes the light way, the permissive way. And the reason is, and this is what's important to us, because every soul is a hiskalalos, is an inter-inclusion of all the midos, and therefore Beis Shammai occasionally in his rulings in Talmud, while goes the other way to the side of letting loose, of untying, of being makel, it's called light. Why? Because of the inter-inclusion of the midos in the root of his soul, where in the root of the soul, the right side is of course included. Otherwise, there's no wholeness, right? So there needs to be right and left need to be included with each other and balanced in a way that allows the person to have various modalities of expression, though we don't lose the fact that the people have certain kinds of predominance. One is a more strict person, one is a more lenient person. But in fact, the soul is included of left and right. V'chein shoresh nishmasa and nishmas b'nei Hillel, excuse me. V'chein shoresh b'nei Hillel, and also the source of Beis Hillel has to go the other way. It has to include koilo gamkein, the midah of the left side from the left, mismoil. Kiyadua derek umidas kadosh elyon, as is known, the way of the supernal midas. The supernal midos is the midos of Hashem as they manifest in the creation, and up there at the root of manifestation where midos come out of singularity. It says in the Zohar, Deles Toman Kitzun Vapirid. At the root of things, there's no split. Remember, Hashem Echad. He is one and he is Yochid. He is singular. So, but nevertheless, multiplicity comes out from him, and opposites even come out from him, Chesed in Geburah. But at root, there is no left in the root. Everything is in a state of inter-inclusion where the predominance is the behavior of Chesed. Chesed is the predominant because in creation, that's what God is doing. He's giving of himself. So there's no kitzutz v'pira. There's no split. There's no separation at root. V'chol hamidas kalulais zu b'zu. And at root, all the midos inter-include each other. As we mentioned before, this comes to light in Sfiras HaOmer, where we talk about Chesed Shebechesed, Chesed Shebegavura, Chesed Shebetiferes, etc., where we see clearly how that all the midos are inter-included with each other. Therefore, since they're inter-included with each other, at root, Hem Yuchedes Zu B'Zu. they're united one with the other. As is known to those who understand the hidden wisdoms, which is the Kabbalah, and of which we are learning to some extent those hidden wisdoms. The hidden wisdoms being that we ourselves, each one of us, is an all-inclusive. Our soul, our nefesh elokis, is a chelek elokah. It's a part of God who himself is all-inclusive. And therefore, we have the potential to do things totally opposite to our natural, more comfortable state. So that's behaviorally the importance of knowing the inter-inclusion of midos in Hashem, since we're created in his image. We're going to see by Avraham. We see this in a human being, Avram Avinu. Shehu midas a chesed. He's the midah of chesed, right? You see in the Chumash, she and Sarah both were the midah of chesed, in that they together worked the crowd. They put out food for travelers. They were balei tzedakah, right? Always giving over to looking for the opportunity to bring someone close. As it's mentioned many times by the Rebbe and others, they were the first shluchim, if you will, of Hashem. They went out to the Arabs who passed by to bring them close to the consciousness of the oneness of God. And that was their nature. They were midas chesed, that was predominant. Va'ava, and midah of love. Love, the midah of chesed, its behavioral offspring is love. Love is the behavior that comes from the midah of kindness. And nevertheless, there's another pasuk. Hashem says by the Akedah, Ato yodaiti, now I know, ki yirei elakim ato, that you fear God, fear being the side of Gevurah. Hashem, Avraham Avinu took a knife, a cut, that's a Gevurah. So you see that this Ish Chesed also was capable of Gevurah, the opposite side. That because he became one who he calls, I know now that you fear me because of the expression of the midah of Gevurah. The Yakir is Yitzhak, and that's the Akedah, Yakir, Akedah. He bound, that's another, even binding, tightening, holding back, connected with Isser, which is the side of tied down. Aked es Yitzhak, Benoy. He bound his son Yitzhak. The Yigach HaMacheles, and he took the knife. All of these are Gevuratic activities. And that which the pasuk speaks about Avram in general and says, calls him Avram, my beloved. And then about Yitzhak in general, Yitzhak is referred to as Pachad Yitzhak, fear. He's the midah of fear. You see this in the behavior of each of them. Avram extended himself. He was like the Baal Shem Tov, who, I mean, this is brought in Chassidus, the comparison. Baal Shem Tov wandered out of his Dalit Amos all around, bringing people close to God. He extended himself. That's Chesed. Whereas Yitzhak stayed in his tent, and people came to him, which is more like, as brought in also in Sichos of the Rebbe, more like the midah of the Mezrach Magid, who was not a wanderer, but people came to him. So, both in general, Avraham is kindness, right? Avram Ohivi, my beloved. And in general, Yitzhak is Gevurah. But as we see in the example of Avraham, even though he's generally Hesed, he can also behave in a Gevurah-dik way. Why is that? Now we get to the heart of how it is that one can overcome one's limits. This is the whole avoid. Remember now, this harks back to the earlier letter. There's the Masa of Tzedakah, the deed of Tzedakah, which the Alter Rebbe used a grammatical, brought to our attention the grammatical construct of the word Ma'aseh, or like Na'aseh, something which is done. Ma'aseh, Maisa. What has been done, that we didn't do it, but has been done. We have been given a soul that is, by its nature, we are called Rachmanim, merciful people. We are called a Chaston, a kind people. That's a nature that's built within us. And that's the predominant way we behave. And that's Mahaseh. But then there's what we can do. And to get beyond that, which was called in the previous letter, avoida tzedakah, that we can work on ourselves and get beyond ourselves. Where does this ability come from to go beyond yourself? Because in truth, each of us is an admixture, a conflux that's not the right word, a histolysis, an inter-inclusion of both sides. And it's just that usually the other side is hidden, but is there to be utilized and to be tapped. So this is a example of bechinas gilui v'helam, what's revealed and what's concealed. So in the massive tzedakah, the ordinary, what's revealed is our natural, God-given kindness. What's hidden is the gevura, the power to overcome that, the limits, the power to overcome that, if a person is naturally a Baal Chesed, or the other way around, if a person is naturally a Baal Gevura. So there's what's revealed, but we do have the opposite, although the opposite may be concealed in us, Gilui v'helam. Shemidas Yitzchak, apachad, hu bechinas Gilui. When it comes to the midah of Yitzchak, what's revealed is the pachad, the fear, the gavura, the holding back, the holding things tight. And that's what's in bechinas Gilui. The ahava, and the love, which is in a person whose natural state, more comfortable state is to hold back, however, is there. But it's misuteres. It's concealed, the bechinas helam, the hester, in a manner of concealment and hiding. The hepach, and the opposite is true, the midas Abba Rabbeinu olav shalom, where his nature was chesed, and he had within him, imagine this, a person who's naturally kind and loving. I mean, it's impossible for me to really get this, but here's the behavior that we see in the Chumash. He was ready, willing, and able, and right there, with alacrity, to tie his son and take the knife, because of in this case, the revelation of what is generally hidden, which was the midah of Gevurah. That's today's Tanya, basically telling us that no matter what our nature is, either to extend ourselves or hold ourselves back, we have within us a hidden power which can be tapped, but that takes avoidance to reveal the gilui, the revelation of that which is hidden within us. Comments? Questions? Actions?
I see. I just want to say we're talking about chesed and gevura, kindness and like holding back, but I see it also as other midos, like holding back anything. Anything could be chesed. Like this applies very, very much to me. I feel like really connected to this teaching for right now for myself. Because like if I want to do something, but I have to hold back, wanting to do something is chesed and holding back is gevura, right?
Correct.
Okay, so this is like we're basically talking about self-control.
In your example, yeah, like I want to do something, but I'm going to hold myself back from doing. That's called self-control. Yes.
So I take that. I just want to say that was my takeaway.
So you're saying, and that applies somehow, which you're not getting into, but it applies particularly to you at this moment.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Exercising self-control.
Okay. Yeah, with like my nature wants to, do something, be a certain way, and exercising self-control by being the opposite of my nature.
Yeah.
Even if
And that's the whole dance and tension between mitzvahs aseh and mitzvahs lo aseh. There are things a person is commanded to engage with the world, but at the same time, a person has to hold back from engaging with the world as it appears and its superficial manifestation, and not get caught up in the pure superficiality of it because you have a desire to get involved with this thing. Hashem wants you to get involved with it in a certain way. So you have to rein in your attachment to things down here below and approach things in a way that Hashem wants you to do it, which is reining in is Gevurah. And Mitzvah Shloisa said just the other way, person has an urge to do something which is not permitted, right? But that urge is to do something that needs to be held back. So there's the urge to go, the urge to go forward, the urge to do is this kind of giving, extending oneself, engaging, and the other is Gevurah. So I'm just pointing this out because your example, Elisha, it pertains, I'm sure, to everyone. And even if one's nature may not be that I want to give more than I can, even if there are plenty ways which probably each one of us could bring to the table if we felt like talking about it, where we can where we do, in fact, balance our chesed and gevurah together.
But even if it's anger, like even if it could also be like I want to pour forth chesed with anger, and I'm gevurahing it back.
Exactly. Very good. Anybody else?
In the beginning, the very start of the lecture, talking about goodness and kindness. So I was, thinking, well, is that redundant? Is goodness just another way of saying kindness? Are they interchangeable? And it seems to me that possibly they're not. Like, in other words, it sounds like goodness is maybe an innate quality, like a midah of a person, whereas the active form of that is the kindness, because kindness will be like towards another or even towards yourself.
Right.
So really, they're kind of two separate things, like let's say to work on for Rosh Hashanah or something. Like one is my acts, my kindness, and the other is my goodness as a person. Am I an innate good person? And they're not the same.
You're right. They're absolutely true. That's our pasuk. Ma'arav tuvacha. How great is your goodness, right? And goodness, and you're right. There are two dimensions, both associated with the same midah: the midah of kindness and the act of goodness, or that I'm inherently good and therefore I'm going to act kind. Yeah. The way that it's looked at more primarily because we name the midah kindness, and we name the behavior that comes out of kindness ava, love. So you could look at it either way, though. But you're absolutely right. One is the inherent, and the other is what you have to work on to express the inherent. Thank you. So lots of opportunity here today. I'm sure we will find the opportunities to find the right balance in how we relate to each and every opportunity in the world. So we meet again. Good night.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.